it to the audience in the studio, and that's how we get the laughs on the film. But it is all genuine Dad's Army audience laughing, I can assure you. People always say, well, you know, oh, it must be fun doing all that. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have actually been to a television recording? Isn't it the most boring subject you've ever been to? It really is the most boring experience. You think you're going to see them record a one half-hour show. You're probably there for about 3 hours. And then halfway through this, someone will say, oh, would you lot at the front mind sitting at the back, and you lot at the back sitting at the front? Oh, would you put this jacket on instead of that one, to make them think it's a different audience, you know? And it does get a little bit wearing after time, and it certainly does for the actors as well, because the studio scenes were actually rehearsed during the previous week. It was a little bit like being in a week of the rep again. You rehearsed for a week with one episode, then we went into the studio on Saturday night, we did the camera and technical rehearsals. Then we went in on Sunday afternoon and we did a full dress, what we call an as per rehearsal, full dress and as per performance. And then in the evening we recorded it. So each week we had to trek to this concrete donut, as I call it, the BBC Television Centre. And sometimes, of course, even in the studio with all our hard work, so there had to be retakes. Now, you'll all know what a retake is, of course. And sometimes it wasn't always our fault. Any one of you who are cameramen will probably know the lovely excuse they all have. Sorry, retake, hair in the gate. I've never known what a hair in the gate was, unless it was a rabbit going across the screen. But it was some sort of technical fault with the actual lens, and we had to do it again. And somebody like John Lorry would go out to the audience and say, you'll need to forgive us, ladies and gentlemen, we're just a crowd of foolish old men. And then Corporal Jones would come out and say, now when we do it again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll all laugh twice as loud, otherwise we'll be here all bloody night. So that was basically the setup of it. Now the location work was what I was used to call our 10 days paid holiday, which meant we went up to Thetford in Norfolk. Very nice little town, Thetford, little market town, and we had 10 days up there, and what we did was record all the outside scenes for the whole of the next series. And the night before, when you're either in the bar or in your bedroom, you'd have your script for tomorrow handed to you, and you sort of say, well, you know, where does this fit in? And you say, oh, you'll find out, be all right, just learn the lines. Oh my God. So anyway, you go in the next day, and we'd start rehearsal, and I said to Jimmy, Jimmy, what episode's this for? He said, oh, hang on a minute. He didn't tell me what episode it was. I do remember one day, we were marching down a road. We're always marching down roads, and this particular one, we were marching down the road, and Desmond Callum Jones was marching next to me. He said, Colin, what episode is this for? I said, don't know, but for God's sake, just keep marching, I'm bursting. And we worked without our pressures, shall we say, you know. I remember in one episode, it was in, oh God, yes, that film. Did anybody see that film? Oh, I'm glad you all kept quiet. It's terrible. And we had 6 weeks of absolute agony on that. Nobody enjoyed it at all. And at one point, the director thought it would be great fun to have all these old men coming down a hill on bicycles. And Sergeant will say, oh, look, sir, a Dornier. And we all crash in and fall on top of everybody. And half the world said, oh, no, I don't think so. There are far too many old gentlemen here for that sort of rubbish. So we didn't do it. We just let the bikes go and let them fall in a heap. We had that, and also we had a very, very funny episode when we were doing a field craft scene, trying to cross the stream, and we had to have a telegraph pole on our shoulders. You remember that one? And some stranger said, young Godfrey's not pulling his weight. And Corporal Joe says, no, we are carrying him. Anyway, we had to, they were what I call the number one section. They were the lot nearest the camera. My section were further up the stream. The idea was you put the end of the telephone pole into the ground, throw it, and it went over the stream, and then you shinned across the pole. Except that I'm sure some property master hadn't checked, and I got my trousers caught on a nail. And I was pulling away there, and nothing was happening, and they were shoving at the back. In the end, David Croft said, "Cut, cut, cut, what's wrong, Colin?" I said, "Well, I seem to be stuck on something, Mr. Croft." He said, "Oh, trust you." Anyway, Croft's boy came out, waded out into the sea. He said, "Oh, it's a nail that's on there." And David said, "Well, the trouble was it was a hell of a lot funnier that was going on at the front." He said, "Of course, so we had to do it all over again." But that was me on the pole. We came one day, while we were doing the film, I don't know why they fell out with Deptford, but we used Chalfont St Giles for Warmington-on-Sea. And one day we were walking down the street, High Street. It was a rehearsal. It was a dry run, a rehearsal. And George Hancock said, "Hey Colin, look over there, just behind the camera. Who is it?" I said, "Oh God, it's Harold Snowd and all the BBC team come to watch what's going on." So the chorus behind me started up, "Come back BBC, all is forgiven." The director went mad. He was a funny little Irishman named Cohen. And he suddenly went absolutely mad about it. But it's, you know, it was a funny do that. But to get back to happier times, of course, there was the Battle of Waterloo, which you saw a clip from here. And the two horses upon which Captain Mannering and I were sitting, his was the famous White Horse Whiskey, the one that models for the labels, and I was on, would you believe it, her boyfriend, Caesar. And whiskey wouldn't work on a set unless Caesar was there. So the director said, "Oh, well, we're not paying for two horses, you can go on Caesar." And I've never been on a horse in my life before. And I beautifully dressed as Marshal Ney with these skin-tight doe skin trousers on, and all this guns up here, beards and hats and what have you, sitting there trying to look smart. And we got up there, oh, believe you me, after a quarter of an hour I just couldn't move my legs at all. And when he came to the coffee break, Harold Snow, who was our floor manager, came over and said, "Come on, we're all going for it." I said, "Not me, I'm staying up here, mate." I said, "If I get down there, you'll never get me up again." So he said, "Oh well," so somebody brought me a coffee, and then of course I immediately wanted to go again. It was a case of somebody lead Caesar into the bushes while I did what I had to do and then bring him back. And right at the end of the day, David said, "Right, that's a wrap," which means all. And I looked down, and this stable lad, he was called. I don't know why we call him stable lads. He must have been almost 70 years old at least. And he was about that high to a grasshopper with a big flat cap on. He said, "Are you finished, Mr. Bean?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Right, come on." He said, "Just put your foot in there. I said, "You're going to let..." He said, "Oh yes, it's all right, I've done it before." Have you ever seen those cartoons, like Tom and Jerry, where they suddenly go racing and they go flat into a wall and fall back and there's a silhouette in the wall? I put my foot in his hand, as he said. I swung the rest of my 17 stone over the horse, went right down, fell flat on top of him, and I didn't get a spot of mud. He, on the other hand, had to be pulled out of the mud. Sounded like champagne cork. That was, and I said, "Never again on a horse. Never again. Thank you very much." But you see, the whole premise of it was